my floss. I'm all threaded up. I'm going to show you how to do the loop method from the front of your project. And if you're wondering why I'm doing it from the front, it's because this being in a frame on the table, it's easier for me to show you this from the front. So I'm coming down up in the bottom left stitch. So I'm coming up in, so I put my needle down through the bottom left leg of my stitch, and I'm going to come up in the top right, if I can find the hole, of that same stitch. I'm going to grab the loop of my floss and stick my needle right through it. And we're going to pull that down, not super tight. You don't want it to distort the holes on your fabric. And I'm going to put this down into the same hole I just came up through. And just pull it through to the back. And you see my loop has disappeared to the back of my fabric. Now I'm going to come up and finish the other leg of this stitch. I always like to finish the leg of that first, or both legs of that first stitch, just to make sure it is completely secure. Once I have done that, I'm free to go through and do half stitches across the rest of these. And I'm just going to fill in as far as I need to, which for this row happens to be 3 stitches. And then I'm going to go between the 2 pieces of floss here, the 2 strands, and I'm going to go down into that leg. That is called railroading your stitches, and it just helps your stitches lay a bit nicer, and it helps prevent skinny strands. I guess would probably be the best way to say that. I don't know, there's probably a better way to say that, but it helps your floss from rolling up on itself and becoming very thin. So I like to railroad my stitches, and I pretty much started out cross stitching just by railroading my stitches. Where is that hole? Nope, that's not it. It's hard because I've got the camera in my way, so I'm kind of doing this over the shoulder of the camera, if you can believe that. Like normally the camera would be over your shoulder, but in order to be able to be really close up of a view for you guys, this was the way I had to do it. And I apologize for the noise in the background. My kids are outside playing. I've got the door open and enjoying some of that nice, pleasant weather that we've got going on right now. And that is the end of that triangle. I want to go into the next one for you. That way you can see that one I did not railroad my stitches, and you can see it just looks a little bit thinner on that one, but not enough for me to be concerned about it or want to go back and do it over again. I'm going to do the next line of stitching here so you can see how that works going across a longer line like this. Now before I do that, I'm starting to see some twists in my floss here, and the simplest way that I have found to fix this is to pull my needle all the way down on my floss. And then I just lightly run my fingers over it, and that gets out enough of the twist to where I can stick my nail between the two strands and separate them. And then I will just pull my needle back up into position on my floss and keep going. And I really prefer to stitch with these half stitches for as many stitches as I can do, and then go back through and cross the other leg. I think of the first leg as being the criss, and the second leg is the cross. So it's like crisscross. I think this is also a very easy way for beginners to make sure that they have all of the legs of their stitches facing the same direction, because one of the things that you want to make sure of with cross stitching is that all of your stitches go in the same direction. You don't want to have one going over the top one way and then one going over the top the other way. And I am zoomed in too much to use my hand as a demonstration for that. Sorry about that. But you wouldn't want to have some of them laying on your fabric like this and some of them laying like this. You want to go in the same direction all the way across. For all of the stitches in your project, you want them to be facing the same way. It just makes your stitching look a lot neater and lay nicer. And it is one of those things that, you know, a lot of people who are just starting out may not think of right off the bat of that's how it's supposed to be. And of course, a lot of experienced stitchers, they might not think to tell a newbie that when they're first starting out. And I see a lot of places online, like on Reddit and stuff, where people have a newbie cross stitcher has posted their work and it looks fantastic. But of course, the experienced cross stitchers will step in and they'll let them know, kindly, of course, that one of the goals they should have is to have their stitches all laying in the same direction, and they explain why. But, you know, when you've gotten used to doing something enough times, it can be difficult to remember what you didn't know when you first started out. And sometimes you don't get to correct somebody until after they've made the mistake, just because you didn't think of that being something that they would not know. I know that sometimes it's difficult for me with sewing, and I run into that problem because at this point I've been sewing for a long enough period of time. Oh my gosh, where is that stitch? I've been sewing for a long enough period of time that I don't always, my brain's not in the same mode as a beginner, and it's difficult for me to remember what I didn't know before I started. So sometimes the best teacher can be somebody else who's new to something as well, because maybe they're just a little bit further along and they have figured out some steps that haven't, that next new person is going to need to know, but that nobody thought to necessarily give them that tip. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with doing some of these beginner cross-stitching videos is that I am new to this hobby. I just started this in, well, not this project, but I just started cross-stitching in October and of 2023. I'm not sure when you'll be watching this video, but in October of 2023 is when I first started cross-stitching. So I feel like I'm still new enough to where I know what newbies are needing to learn, but I'm also have been doing it long enough to where I've gotten the hang of it and I know what I can kind of guide some people along. Now, this particular stitch, I'm kind of having trouble coming up in the right spot. I'm going to come down into the bottom leg of the stitch instead of the top leg of it. Oh my goodness, I'm coughing here. And then I can go down into the correct place and I can find it a little bit easier by going down. If ever you run into a situation like that where you're just really struggling with coming up in the right spot, consider whether it's possible for you to make the leg of that stitch from the other side, from the other end. From the bottom of the leg or from the top of the leg, depending on where you're at. It's not always possible, but sometimes that'll help you out some if you're kind of stuck like that. And there we go. We've gone through another whole triangle. I'm really enjoying this. I think that this is going to be a really cute design. And already just these triangles on the side are very satisfying and fun to stitch. So I hope this was helpful. And if it was, please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe so you can come back for the next video. And I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.